Good morning. We're happy you joined us today. Next slide, please. My name is Becky Yeomans DeMoss, and I'm the chair of the RAC Communications Subcommittee. On behalf of the team, welcome to the May 2024 RAND meeting. Next slide, please. As we get started, a few notes. The meeting is being recorded. The presentations and slides will be posted online. This is a Zoom webinar, so you are in watch mode. Chat is disabled. Please use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. We will do our best to answer them during the meeting. Live captioning is available. Next slide, please. All right. On our agenda today, we have community kudos, feature presentations on artificial intelligence AI laboratory at Michigan, and using retrieval AI to accelerate research discovery and application in the medical school. We also have updates from our central offices and a couple of quick polls. Next slide, please. The following individuals and teams are recognized today in our community kudos: Chris Allen, Leslie Shevowitz, Connie Halem, Amy Holohan, Jennifer Huntington, Kathy Leibowitz, Jill Miller, Sharihan Mohammed, Danielle Smith, Lauren Tingwell, Helen Zhu, Melissa Wallace, Zion West, and those who were Navigate program contributors during the past year. Check the chat for a link for the details. Next slide, please. Our first poll is about artificial intelligence. We would like to gauge your comfort level with AI applications like ChatGPT, Bing AI, and others, as well as find out if you are using AI in your role as research administrator. We will give you about 1 minute to respond to the poll, starting now. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. I am delighted to introduce today's MC, Minu Baxendale. Minu is a research administrator lead at CSE within the College of Engineering, with 13 years in the field and 22 years at University of Michigan. Before coming to U of M, Minu was a paralegal at an immigration law office in New York. She is an active member of SRAI Planning Committee and served as track co-chair of proposal review for the Midwest section meeting held in Palm Springs, California in April of this year. She received her CRA in 2018. Next slide, please. Outside of work, Minu loves spending time with her fiance in the evenings after work and traveling around the world. Between herself and her fiance, they have 4 beautiful children who are either independent or currently in college. Minu finds joy in running and dancing in her free time. Over to you, Minu.
Thank you, Becky, for such a wonderful introduction and giving me the opportunity to present on AI at Michigan. As Becky mentioned, between Adam and I, we have 4 beautiful kids. Our oldest works at Amazon as a technical program manager in generative AI. Second oldest is currently applying for medical schools while gaining ophthalmology experience in Washington, D.C. And our youngest 2 are sophomores in college. One studying computer science engineering at MSU and interning this summer as software engineer with Bank of America. The other is studying public health at DePaul University in Chicago. To provide additional context about myself, I'm getting married in 2 days on Sunday, May 19th, to a wonderful friend of 8 years. No matter how small or big the grant is, we are always directly involved in our faculty's research. My favorite part of being a research administrator is putting budgets together and post award. Now, I would like to share some more information about AI Lab here at Michigan. CSE's Michigan at College of Engineering is to shape the future of computing and benefit the world through excellence in education and research. The AI Lab at Michigan is led by Radha Makelcha and Jenna Weems, with support from Christina Serto, the program manager for strategic initiatives. I'm grateful to Radha, Jenna, and Christina for helping me prepare this overview of AI at Michigan. Next. The AI Lab's history dates back to the 1980s. One of the lab's early research successes was in the field of autonomous mobile robots. Here is a picture of a robot from that decade. Carmel was equipped with 24 electrosonic sensors, and many of the algorithms developed back then to navigate obstacles in real life served as the foundation for autonomous vehicles today. Next. Fast forward to today, our robots look a little different. Next. And our faculty has grown significantly from a small number of research to 28 faculty supervising close to 100 PhD students. All of our research produced from these 4 faculty groups and collaborators have helped raise the profile of the AI Lab. Currently, we have 27.5 million in research active awards and 6.5 million in total research expenditures. Our PIs have received 4.5 million in new grant funding as a result of submitting 58 proposals. We are also very active in terms of publications and mentoring, and are proud of our over 270 Michigan AI alumni. Last year, we were ranked by US News and World Report as the 10 graduate schools for AI. We also share the research expertise we have through numerous classes that we teach on, including core AI and applications of AI, emerging topics in AI, for example, deep learning, reinforcement learning, and AI and ethics. Courses cross-listed with other departments like AI and ethics, grad natural language processing. Other AI courses offered in other departments, for example, ECE has machine learning and others across U of M. Next, our faculty and graduate students have been recognized with many awards for their work from both U of M and other external distinguished organizations. In this graphic, we are highlighting some of the organizations that employ our nearly 300 PhD alumni. Many of our alumni are employed with industry, but we have a strong percentage who choose to stay in academia. Next, we also have a significant reach in the community through hosting Friday Night AI in partnership with the Ann Arbor District Library. We host AI for All meetings, symposiums, seminars, and have a wide range of collaborations with industry and other disciplines in academia. We are very proud of our summer outreach camp for high schoolers, which helps young people gain an understanding and appreciation of engineering, computer science, and AI. As we know, smartphone usage among both teenagers and adults is very high. One of our research teams have developed an application to help reduce the negative impact of smartphones overuse on physical and mental health. Chris is going to share a video about this exciting research now.
You are someone that you want to reduce overuse, and it's the tool that's not effective enough to support you to do that. Smartphone overuse is a problem, right? We know that. And there are current interventions such as you set your timer, let's say an hour for these apps collectively. And then once you reach that timer, then you will pop out a notification. You can ask 1 more minute, 15 more minutes, or skip for the rest of the day, right? So that's pretty common. But a big problem is that when it is too annoying or becomes too frustrating, you just stop using it. But the idea of our project is that once you reach the timer, we manipulate the user's input, such as like we add a little bit of delay to our tap, or we set an offset to our tap. So we have to tap a little bit below to trigger what is on top of it. Or when you swipe, we will make it slower, or we will have to reverse the direction. But basically these manipulations have the effect of just adding a little bit of friction. When the app forces you out, you feel that you're not in control, right? You are forced out. But when it's interact out that give you this friction, when you stop using it, you feel that you decided to stop using it, not the app forced you to stop using it. And this level of user agency will make you feel better to stop using your device.
Thank you, Chris. And with that, I would like to introduce you to Heather Hofhaus and Sandy Alberto. Sandy Alberto is a research development specialist in the Grant Services and Analysis Unit of the University of Michigan Medical School Office of Research. As part of the research development team, she works to create, revitalize, and implement resources that will advance successful grant development in the medical school. Prior to joining the Office of Research in 2022, she served the U of M Flint campus for 17 years as program coordinator for the Thompson Center for Learning and Teaching. She holds a bachelor's degree in communication and has completed graduate work in the Master of Social Science program at U of M Flint. Heather Hofhaus. Heather Hofhaus is a veterinary research administrator, also in the medical school grant services and analysis. Heather serves as the director of the unit that supports the life cycle of research with a passion for creating new programs to innovate the support of research. AI Institute fits right in that. Heather has a background in music, but has found a lifelong love in research administration. And now I will hand you over to them.
Thank you, Minu, for that wonderful introduction. Heather and I are very excited to be here today to discuss how we have engaged with AI to improve access to online resources across the medical school. Next slide, please. This presentation is an overview of a poster that we presented at the NCUR Region 4 Spring Meeting just this past April. Heather's going to provide a bit of background about the project and the project plan.
If you could go to the next slide, please. Hi, everybody. One of the things we wanted to talk about is first we want to acknowledge the MISHAR CTSA award. You can see the reference to the NIH number. Like all good researchers, we have to acknowledge those who provided funding for our activities. So we did actually receive a grant from MISHAR to work on this project and use some funds from them to work on this. So acknowledgement there. One of the things we were interested in tackling is the idea that there is a lot of research administration and research development resources available. We are information rich. But it doesn't always translate into being able to find that information. It is hard sometimes. In the medical school, we've actually just undergone a website revamp, and in that revamp, everything is now scrolled down the page. So we're aware that one, it's hard to find information sometimes, and two, it's hard to make sure that you have access to people and information during time when you're actually working on projects. So we know that some researchers are perhaps working on their BioSketch, which we'll use as an example at 2 a.m. So we wanted to find a way to find asynchronous help for individuals to navigate all the resources available. So Sandy's going to go through some of those things that we loaded in, but it just kind of, that's where we started thinking about this whole AI project, because we think that AI will help inform and reasonably smooth out some of the bumps that we sometimes run into. So that's what our hope was coming into the project. And so we then just dove in and started trying things. If you'll go to the next slide, please. On the poster, you'll see our project plan. The light yellow are things that we have either already completed or about to complete next week. And then the 2 dark yellow are where we're still headed. One of the things that Cindy will walk through is the fact that we engaged stakeholders because it is a research project. So we needed to measure what happened before and after implementation. So we've done the before survey. But to advance this, we actually went and hired a research assistant. So one of the things I just want to acknowledge up front is that sometimes working with AI is not a quick and easy solution. It sometimes takes a lot of investigation, development, trial and error, and some dedicated staff time. So Ping Yan, who is on our group, has been amazing and wonderful. And I think the whole reason that we are successful is that Sandy spent a lot of time thinking through things very carefully, and Ping was just the perfect person to help us out. So that's kind of where our project plan is. So I'm going to hand it over to Sandy to walk through some of these different steps.
Thanks, Heather. As she just noted, we were well aware of the challenges people had navigating the online resources provided in our office and throughout the Office of Research. As part of our MSHR project, we issued a survey to kind of gauge familiarity and access of the online resources and ask questions relating to the ease or difficulty people had in finding, using those resources. As you can see, many reported that they were aware of the resources but had challenges finding them. So we weren't surprised. But we were very happy to see that the majority of our respondents were very open to the potential of using some sort of AI assistance. We started our project last April, so well before the U of M AI tools were available. We explored various open source and commercial options to identify a platform that we could use to create a tool, but also a platform that aligned with our skill sets and the human and financial resources we had access to. After much consideration of all the options, including the ones U of M launched last fall, we opted to go with the U of M Mazie, which is a component of the U of M campus-wide generative AI toolset. The infrastructure provided by the ITS AI services team and the fact that the platform is currently provided at no cost were the driving factors for that decision. The U of M Mazie platform uses what is called Retrieval AI and a large language model known as an LLM. Retrieval AI is designed to provide the best possible response based on the information we've provided it, i.e. its knowledge base that we've created. It uses similarity and semantic methods to ensure congruities between the user's query and the stored information to provide the responses. Retrieval AI is not conversational in nature, and prior questions do not influence subsequent questions. It will not create responses from scratch, and it does not get smarter on its own, unlike other AI you might be familiar with. For our knowledge base, we curated over 2,500 distinct URLs to create the custom data set. These include websites for the Office of Research, IRB Med, ULAM, Core Services, various policies related to research and research administration, the NIH application process guides, and the NIH grants policy statement. The data provided must be all one source, meaning we had to choose all URLs, all PDFs, or other documents, or all documents. Since we went with URLs, we had to convert things to a web-based format in some cases. We also worked on curating a list of frequently asked questions that are received in our office, and also some standardized answers that AI could use to draw from in responding to similar questions. We have done a lot of testing with members of the GSNA services team, a small focus group of experienced research administrators, all of which who were asked to query the platform and assess accuracy and helpfulness of the responses that it gave. We used that feedback to improve the Maisie because we can manipulate the prompt behind the scenes, as well as some other features to help the Maisie elicit better responses. We have also regularly engaged with the ITS AI services team to advocate for platform improvements and updates, and they've been very responsive and a great source of support in helping us get this to where we want it to be. Next slide, please.
Sandy, before you go, do you mind if I make a couple comments on that? I think one thing to know, Sandy mentioned we loaded lots and lots of pages. We have about 2,500 in there. Things that, as Sandy goes into like a pre-canned demo, I guess that's the best thing to call it. When we did that, we found that we needed to feed it all of this information to create good answers, but it also creates slow responses, right? So I just want to kind of acknowledge that as we talk about things you can do with it, because it does think, and there are 3 dots that just go and go and go for quite a while sometimes as we try to use that. So as Chris starts to show the slide again, when we do this, when Sandy mentioned trial and error. There was a lot of trial and error. A lot of that process through, is it a good answer? Is it a right answer? I think many of you have heard that AI can come sometimes back with suspect answers. So you have to be careful with the information you see. And so we think that it won't be 100% right, but we're going for like that 80 to 85% directionally correct place, especially with answers where you can start to address things. So I think that with that, Sandy, why don't you go to the next slide, Chris, and Sandy will talk through a demo.
Okay, this slide gives you an idea of what the platform looks like. In this example, you can see that I have asked it how to create a good NIH biosketch. So Chris, if you go ahead and click, this is what the full response looks like. It provides 4 distinct resources within the body of the answer. And as you can see, it directs people to the NIH webpage, the Science CV tool, our internal resources, and the research project route map. And what's not shown on the screen is below that it lists sources, but the sources aren't sources like you think they would be. It basically lets you know where it synthesized all the information from, but it's not exactly, oftentimes it's not a direct source that you could click on and go to. But in the answer itself, if there's a available link, it will let you click on it and go right there. So that's just an example of one of the questions we've asked it. So next slide, please. The challenges with Maisie are consistent with other platforms and honestly just the nature of retrieval AI. Besides the challenges detailed on the screen, I would say that the biggest thing is that within the realm of AI, things are changing often and quickly, and it's very hard to keep up. While it's very exciting and we see a lot of potential, there's also a lot of uncertainty, especially regarding potential costs. Another key challenge that Ping and I are trying to work through right now is there's a large learning curve that exists in having users understand how to create the best prompts to respond with, to get the Maisie to respond with the most accurate and helpful answers. And now I'm happy to turn it back to Heather, who's going to talk about our unit's next steps with AI.
If you want to go one more slide there, Chris. So we are looking at launching this interactive Maisie, and as Sandy explained, it is currently a separate website. So when we launch it on our website, you'll have to click a button to go to another website, enter the question, and then come back to the website. We are working with campus and heavily in conversations about the chatbot that they're talking about releasing, because we're hoping to load, actually the initial concept was for a chatbot to pop up on the website screen itself. So that's one of the things we're working on related to this specific project. We are going to have to go back and reevaluate with our users if this Maisie or the chatbot provides an additional level of ease of complexity, you know, to release some of that administrative burden or give asynchronous information to them, and whether they find it to be a marginal improvement over what currently exists. And we'll use that feedback both to refine the platform and to finish off our research project. We are considering whether there's more information that needs to go into our 2,500 pages that we've already loaded it with. Having the NIH grants policy statement and the NIH application system at your fingertips through this sort of approach is very interesting and helpful, because it will combine it with University of Michigan information from the medical school. So we'll be looking at whether there are some other large sponsors like American Heart or ones that we may also want to tap in and play that in. But our next, we've kind of like set this one aside where we're kind of waiting out the chat bot, but we've been spending the last 2 weeks working on additional Maisie applications, and we've moved on to the first one is letters of support. So those of you who have to help draft letters of support for large grants, especially. Once you draft the first one, you need 10 more that sound kind of like it, but not exactly the same. So they sound original. So we are working on prompts that faculty or research administrators can put into the actual Maisie, and it will produce unique letters that are all on the same theme. So we have some faculty that have already indicated that they would love to try this out. So we'll be working with them to test that out. And we're also thinking about the next iteration might be a Maisie related to developing the resources and environment section based on all of the great cores we have across the university. Or the other one is working on budget justification. So if we give Maisie a list of charges that we expect to have in the grant or types of expenses and some information about the science, can it produce a basic budget justification to at least start with? Because I think one of the things I've heard about AI is it is absolutely excellent, right? It has some drawbacks, but it is absolutely excellent to get you over blank page syndrome. Right. So when I sit down and I have to start working on a particular document, it is sometimes hard to even get going and get rolling. And so getting over that blank page syndrome is something that we're hoping to address. So those are kind of the exciting things we're playing with and trying out, and think we'll see if AI can do anything for us. We do not expect it to solve everything. It will not replace people. It will, in fact, though, help them do their jobs better. So there's that. And I think, I don't know, Chris, I see that there's information coming in on the chat as far as questions.
Correct, yeah. So the first question, Heather and Sandy, is will you be adding in the pages for clinical trials and human subjects?
So It depends what you mean by those pages. The NIH requirements for application are already included in the data set, as well as medical school has some information and published information on our websites about those two things. Those are both already in the data set. We are open to suggestions from the medical schools, so feel free to drop Sandy or myself an email on the side as well. So there's that.
And then the next question.
Yeah,
oh,
go
you got
ahead.
it?
Yep.
It says
Go ahead.
for the data set of URLs, what if a URL requires a login? How does it access the info on that page?
Cindy, do you want to field that?
So it can't access that. So it can only access information on publicly available web pages. And another thing to keep in mind is it cannot crawl like Google search can. So if a web page is not well designed, such as if it's just a link or if it just lists links of PDF files, for example, Maisie will not be able to extract that information. It cannot search through embedded links on a web page. So that's why we've had to spend a lot of time on our own web pages, making sure that Maisie can access the information that's there. I see that we just had a question about how can we make sure the data is always up to date. So Maisie will only use the information we've given it. We have the option and availability to index the data regularly. Like we could index it every day, once a week, every other week, but it's only going to be as dependable as the information on the web page.
So it does mean, just like regular information sharing, we have to stay up to date on that, which is fed. Now, we won't control the NIH web pages at all. We can control our own and add edits to our own, right, and make sure that we index after that. I think with every AI, you have to be buyer beware. It knows just as much as we tell it. It's only as, well, it's probably smarter than we are, but it's only as smart as what we tell it to be smart with. So if that helps at all. And I think that ends the questions I see posted. But feel free to contact Sandy or myself if you have questions about the poster, or if you'd like to receive a copy of the poster. I'm sure we can share that. So we'd be happy to do that. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy and Heather, for your presentation and all the information you have provided. It was great. One of the things we are more excited about the AI lab is how our research is being applied in many areas. While we devote a lot of our effort to core AI projects, we also have many interdisciplinary collaborations with other U of M groups, such as the Institute for Social Science Research, Michigan Institute for Data Science, the School of Public Health, and Michigan Medicine. Next. Our Associate Director, Jenna Weens, works with healthcare providers to utilize machine learning to process massive amount of data. This project can help to alleviate problems that occur when there is physician shortage or burnout and medical errors happen. Chris will share a video that provides a summary of this important research now.
In hospitals today, we're collecting an immense amount of patient data. Everything from what medications a patient's on to their genetic makeup. And despite spending ever more time studying and entering data about their patients, clinicians are still ignoring the vast majority of it. In my research group, we develop and use machine learning techniques to help make sense of all these data. We detect patterns in these data, patterns that can be used to sort patients from low risk to high risk for a particular adverse outcome or disease. Given the challenges that today's healthcare system is facing, there's a critical need, but also an opportunity for AI in healthcare. Currently, the demand for clinical care far exceeds the supply, and economists anticipate that by the year 2025, we'll see a shortage of over 100,000 clinicians in the US. And this shortage exacerbates what's already a serious issue in the field, clinician burnout. This burnout, combined with a lack of tools to make sense of all the data, contributes to a large number of medical errors. These issues combined highlight an important need, but also an opportunity for AI in healthcare. The opportunities for artificial intelligence, or AI, in health are vast. From a data perspective, there's a seemingly unlimited number of technical challenges. In my research group, we span a number of different data types and diseases. I'm particularly excited about the potential impact our work in cystic fibrosis could have. Cystic fibrosis, or CF, is a serious genetic disorder that causes lung disease and shortened lifespans. CF patients suffer from periodic flare-ups that can cause irreversible lung damage, affect a patient's ability to breathe, and result in reduced quality of life. Patients will often receive treatments for these flare-ups, but typically they receive this treatment too late, after irreversible lung damage has already occurred. Along with my clinical collaborators, we're working to identify or detect subtle changes in the bacteria present in the airways of patients with CF. We can detect changes that associate with worsening of symptoms. We could potentially predict flare-ups before they occur. This in turn could lead to earlier treatments and help prevent irreversible lung damage. So in summary, there's an immense amount of data that we're collecting both inside and outside the hospital, and a critical need, but also an opportunity for artificial intelligence and machine learning to make sense of it.
Thank you, Chris. On this slide, we have shared links to videos of some work that is happening at Michigan AI. We will not have time to review all of the videos that are shared here on this slide, but they will be included with the slide deck that is shared after the meeting. We suggest you take a look at these to see how Michigan AI is creating an impact. So I hope that gave you just a taste of what we are at Michigan AI. I hope you'll join us and help us further grow our network and reach. And now I will hand you over to Andrea Anderson.
Hi, everyone. Next slide, please. So I'm here to give you our ORSP update today, and we've got some sponsor updates in queue for you. Next slide. A big one that you may or may not have heard about, hopefully you've heard about, there are some pretty major changes coming to uniform guidance. And so several of the central offices have been discussing these in the background. There is a working group being formed to review all of the changes to uniform guidance and determine our path forward to implementing those changes. We just want you to be aware that group is getting formed now, and we'll be working on this, and there will be more details to come. Not a whole lot to share just yet, as a lot of the analysis is underway with our various professional organizations. Next slide. So there are some updates to the NSF award terms and conditions. They announced in March that they've updated these, and they're making them consistent with the most recent PAPG release, which is effective May 20th in just a few days. Also wanted to make you aware that NSF is holding their Spring 2024 Grants Conference next month, June 3rd through the 5th. And it will also be available in a hybrid format through live stream. So check that out if you are interested. Next slide. NIH had some major updates in a recent notice published early April. A few highlights from that notice. There's other content, but a few highlights from what came up there is that there are changes to the reference letter guidance from NIH. They are looking to make that guidance more specific to help ensure that reviewers are getting the information they need consistently through these reference letters to make assessments equitably across those that they are assessing. There are also changes to the NRSA training grant applications. There's different requirements in the documentation now, so please be sure that you are reviewing those changes or those solicitations carefully when they come through. There will also be a webinar on that. I just quickly find the right slide notes here. June 5th. NIH is going to be holding a updates on training grant applications webinar event. If you go to that notice that's linked here, there is a link to register for that webinar right there in the notice. There's also an update coming to add Forms I, and Carolyn will talk later about how we are going to account for that in ERPM. And NIH has announced that they are going to be implementing the Common Forms as a requirement in January 2025. So more details on that can be found in that notice. NIH posted the FY24 grant policy statement in April on the grants policy page, and there's a link here that you can use to go review that. Next slide. There are some stipend level increases coming for the NRSA stipends. NIH has increased the level 0 to $61,008. This is one of the largest increases in many, many years, so it's very important to highlight. Training expenses and institutional allowances have also been increased to $200. Child care stipends increased by $500 up to $3,000. And tuition and fees for educational levels are unchanged. There's some links here so that you can go look at the detail. Next slide. DOJ Just Grant application has, or Just Grants has published an updated checklist for submissions through that system. There's a link here in this slide that you can go to later to review that checklist. As a reminder, this involves a two-step process. First, to submit an abbreviated application via grants.gov, and then complete and submit the full application in Just Grants. Next slide. Next slide. So some updates from here at home at U of M. We've got, so this was just kind of a little agenda of what you're going to see in the next coming slides, but changes to deliverables. Oops, that's fine. So some changes coming to deliverables. We can go back. I'll just keep going. There are some signs coming out from our federal partners that there are going to be more serious consequences for late reporting. There was an article last month in the Chronicle highlighting how at UCSD, all of their grant funding was shut down and withheld from NIH, NSF, and ONR due to one investigator having late final reports. That is a huge risk to the institution, obviously, to have all of their funding shut down because one investigator hasn't fulfilled their obligations. In this particular case, it was a retired investigator who hadn't completed his final reporting prior to retirement. There were several follow-ups from the funding agency, which were not responded to. The reports were not submitted in response to those reminders. And ultimately, the agencies all decided to turn off funding until these reports were submitted. This is kind of a warning shot to the entire research community across the country. It's not surprising, and we've talked in other presentations about NIH and other funders becoming more serious in their language and suggesting they might do something like this. So it isn't surprising that this step was taken. Obviously, we have been ramping up efforts over the last several years to ensure that deliverables are met in a timely fashion. One of the changes that we made a couple of years ago was entering all federal final deliverables in ERPM. As you know, those have to be closed out through ERPM, and that way we can track that they've been completed on a record prior to closing it. But we need to do more after reviewing these processes to ensure that we are meeting these obligations prior to or by the deadline set by the federal sponsors. So we're reviewing our controls and assessing where those changes might be appropriate. We are going to be making changes to how we address late deliverables and how we escalate the matter when we find that deliverables aren't being completed on time. And I'm not talking about completing it in the system. I'm talking about submitting it to the sponsor, of course. We are still finding that many investigators are delinquent on their final deliverables. And so we need to have more of an escalation process here to ensure that these are done timely. So we're working on developing those changes. We are certainly working with input from RAC, but those will be coming over the next couple of months. So expect that in the near future. Next slide. We also wanted to give you a quick reminder about proposal routing. Proposals that are being submitted through a sponsor system must be available to ORSP for submission at the time the proposal is routed to ORSP via the path. So in order for it to be considered actionable and reviewable, ORSP must receive it in both places and have it submission ready. Proposals submitted to ORSP in ERPM without an actionable proposal available in the sponsor system where it's required to be submitted through the sponsor system will be sent back incomplete. This has been the established process in ORSP for some time. And so we just want to remind you that the review type gets reset if we haven't received it through both systems at the time that proposal reaches ORSP in ERPM. Next slide. I wanted to give you some updates on our realignment. So you heard about this, I believe, in the last RAN. We talked through our upcoming or ongoing, at this point, realignment in ORSP. We are currently midpoint in the process of establishing our pre-award team and on target with a launch in Q1 of FY25. We've been working with ITS on making several adjustments in ERPM, and you'll hear a little bit more later from Carolyn about some of the changes coming in the system to help us get into this new structure and make sure work keeps flowing to the right teams. But we're looking towards launching that full pre-award team early next fiscal year. We also have a subset of that team live now and working on proposals in our office. So we're really excited to see this moving forward. You've probably also seen a number of different postings from our office over the last several months as we look to fill out our leadership team within the new structure and get folks into roles to lead the various separate teams within ORSP. As a reminder, this realignment is moving us toward a structure of having a separate pre-award team for proposal submission through award receipt, a contracts team for contract negotiations, and an award management team for all non-financial post-award activity all the way through closeout of a project. We're also establishing a new sponsored project coordinator team that is responsible for the data integrity and data entry into our systems, as well as triage of work that's received through various email systems, and managing sponsor codes and sponsor system access for the folks in our office. And we are implementing a new contract tool during this process, which we'll talk a little bit more on the next slide about. Next. Okay, I'm sorry, there'll be a couple slides away. Staffing updates. So as I mentioned, you've probably seen a lot of staff position postings through ORSP. We have, since the last round meeting, welcomed Karen Almadine into a new role as Director of Proposal and Award Management within ORSP. Emily Baxter as our new Director of Contracts within ORSP. Erin Kingsley as the manager on our pre-award team, and Fabio Chiamenti as our project manager, who is helping usher us through this process of realignment. We have several postings in some stage of recruiting, interviewing, etc. right now for a variety of leadership positions and other positions within the office listed here. Next slide. And a reminder that we do have a website now that you can check to see the latest updates on our realignment progress. That's linked here, so you can take a look at that. And we have our new job series posted out in the Career Navigator. So ORSP has a new job series to go with this realignment and all of the position changes, and there are descriptions out there of the various roles. Next slide. All right, here's where we'll talk about the contract system. So we are in the process right now of implementing a new contract lifecycle management tool. Over the last 2 years, ORSP has been exploring a variety of different opportunities to enhance and become more efficient at our contract negotiation processes. We've explored several different tools, and we even piloted a tool last fiscal year. We determined that implementing a contract lifecycle management tool was going to be critical to creating better and more efficient contract workflow in ORSP and throughout all of the offices that are involved in a contract negotiation. So what is a contract lifecycle management tool? This is a software tool that's used for contract creation. It's used for drafting, reviewing, and negotiating agreements. They typically have e-signature integration for routing and execution of agreements. They create full process transparency into how contracts are negotiated. They typically have a searchable repository that can help both campus as well as ORSP have better visibility into the agreements that we have in place. And they have data analytics to help us assess how we're doing at contract negotiation as an institution, at an individual and team level, etc., and also create transparency into the timelines that are required for the various contracts that are being processed through ORSP. Next slide. So one of the features of these tools that is growing exponentially over the last year or so is their AI capabilities. And this little video will tell us a bit about the AI capabilities of the system that ORSP is choosing to implement. We went through an RFP process to select a contract lifecycle tool, and we have selected ultimately Ironclad as our tool. Our plan is that this system is going to be implemented first sort of as a standalone, and then we're going to work to integrate it to ERPM so that data pushes back and forth between the two systems. Our expectation is that you will still request agreements in the way you do now through ERPM, and that ORSP will be pushing records into this system to then negotiate the contracts with external parties. Before I dive more into how that will look, let's take a look at this slide to get an idea of some of the AI capabilities that this tool will bring to our contract negotiation process.
Hi, I'm Michaela, product marketer here at Ironclad. Now let's talk about Ironclad AI. In the old days, you needed a ton of time, plus years of experience to read and understand your contract. Today, that's no longer the case. Ironclad AI transforms your agreements into data. It accelerates negotiation and collaboration, flags risks, and provides insights across your entire contract process. Here's how it works. Upload your documents. Ironclad AI converts even low-quality scans into pristine digital records. Then, it extracts a vast number of data points like contract value, renewal date, counterparty. It can tell what clauses are in there too. With this data, you can now search, sort, and report on all your agreements without having to read them one by one. The folks at One Medical Group are big fans of this feature. An analysis that would have taken weeks, they're now completing in less than an hour. Pretty sweet, right? So Ironclad AI is good for more than just importing contracts though. Often, what really matters is getting agreements done quickly. So let's use AI to review and negotiate contracts way faster than before. Now, when you bring in a third-party agreement, Ironclad AI transforms it into a digital record that you can work on directly. Plus, it analyzes and compares what's in the contract against your negotiation playbook. So instead of going line by line, you can see what's there and jump to the clauses you care about. You can see where it's out of compliance. Then with a click, you can remove a clause or add your own approved terms. And it's not just for you. Ironclad AI will even loop in coworkers to approve the clauses they care about for streamlined collaboration. Our friends at L'Oreal handle a lot of vendor contracts, and they love this. It helps them spend more nights and weekends not looking at contracts. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about insights. Ironclad AI extracts an impressive amount of data, not just what's in your contracts, but around the whole contracting process. With insights, you can actually put that information to use with beautiful and infinitely customizable charts and dashboards. They're informed in real time by your entire body of agreements to understand what's working, what needs to be improved, and how things are trending over time for intelligent, informed management of your contracting process. I can tell you from experience that Ironclad's own legal team can't live without insights. When they share a slide deck, you can bet it's got charts in there. All right, so that's a little about Ironclad AI. It's the future. Smarter, faster digital contracting. And most important of all, it really works. Get in touch and we'll show you a real live demo. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Michaela.
All right, so a little bit more information about how we plan to implement this new system. I saw there was a question in the chat, so we will get to that here. We are working on forming an implementation committee to work through how we will implement this system. Right now, actually later this afternoon, we're having a pre-kickoff meeting with the vendor to start talking through what this will look like. We plan to have representation from the various central offices who will be full users in this group, as well as have some focus groups available for PIs and RAs to participate and give feedback on certain design elements of this system. We are anticipating project kickoff actually probably in the next week or so, with a go live in September or October. So like I said, we're having our pre-kickoff meeting with the vendor today, so we're just going to be working on getting the exact timeline in place now. But we're targeting integration with ERPM in early 2025, probably by the end of January. So who's going to be working in this system? ORSP will certainly be working in this system, both our award management and our contracts team. Both of these teams will have certain agreements or award records that will be put through the system, both for negotiation as well as execution. And of course, our leadership team will be working in this system to monitor work and ensure that things are flowing correctly and to extract data so that we can have more transparency into our contract workflow throughout the campus. ITS will also have administrative access into this system. So we have worked closely with Carolyn and her team as we reviewed and selected a tool for use in this space. They will be assisting us as administrators in the system, and that's critical to being able to integrate this with ERPM. We're also planning for partners in innovation partnerships, RESO, export controls, international engagement, risk management, OGC, to have full user seats in this system so that when they have a contract clause that they need to review or give input on, they will have access to do that in the system. And we are planning to have seats for principal investigators and research administrators to access and see where their contract is at within the system, and also be able to interact when we have questions that we need input from them on. So those are the groups that will have some level of access into this system. As I mentioned earlier, we don't plan on changing the intake process. We want to keep this, we want to minimize the amount of change for the research community while maximizing the advantages of having a tool like this in place. So by integrating this to ERPM and leveraging the tools like PATH and UFA that we already have in place for submitting requests to ORSP, we can minimize the change on the research community while still utilizing all of the incredible tools and resources that are built into a CLM system. Next slide. And just as a final note, for those of you who maybe have, I don't know, not been at work for months, we do have a new VPR. Dr. Skip Lupia, Arthur Lupia, is the interim VP for Research and Innovation, as Rebecca Cunningham has departed for the presidency at University of Minnesota. Some of you may know he has an extensive background as a researcher, administrator, and educator, and has experience having worked with some of our federal agencies throughout multiple presidential administrations. We're really excited to have him in this role, and we're looking forward to what's to come with this change. I do see a question in the chat around final deliverables. I believe this was my last slide. Is that correct, Chris?
Yep, that's correct.
Great. I do see a question around final deliverables, asking whether or not the final patent, financial, and property reports will be tracked in ERPM. So my understanding in discussions with sponsored programs is that final financial reports are tracked through PeopleSoft, and they have their own system for managing that. However, we are going to look into, sorry, losing my headphones here. We are going to look into ways that we can track the final financial and property reports. And we're going to be collaborating with the offices responsible for those. But I don't have a specific answer on exactly what that will look like just yet. And if there are no other questions, I'll turn it over to Carolyn.
Thanks, Andrea. Good morning, everyone. I am here to give you some updates on proposal management. So first, I'm going to talk about some of the changes you're going to see in our upcoming June release that will impact the research community. Briefly, there's no slide on this. We are expecting another update from our vendor on the SF424 grants.gov functionality. I believe we're getting it in late July, so we will test it and then release it sometime in August. I took a look at the forms that they're supporting, and it isn't a major change, but we will definitely announce that when it comes time. And then I'm also going to talk about some cleanup we're doing in the system on PATH and UFA records. We're targeting July 1st for that. And lastly, this is an upcoming announcement for something we are planning to do in August, and that's around Friends accounts. So next slide, please. Let's start with our June release. As Andrea mentioned, we are making some kind of pre-changes as her office is going through the realignment. So one of the things we're starting with in June is question 1.5 on the PATH is going to change. It's going to become required, and I will go through that on a subsequent slide. We've also made some changes to request ORSP action activity. We made some changes to the link permissions in the SF424, which mostly doesn't affect you, but I will show you the place where it does impact you. And then again, related to the ORSP realignment, we've made some changes to the copy map activity and who we are copying in for the institutional context. And then what you can't quite see there, but you should see on a subsequent slide, is we've made a change to the compliance meter because of the risk mitigation. And we've also updated some the subcontract email notifications, and this was a request from the research community. So next slide, please. All right, on the PAF, question 1.5, this is the one where if you answer that you have a subsequent PAF for an existing award, ideally you should know the name of that award. And in June, we're going to say if you answer a subsequent PAF, question 1.5, which is to look for that award and put it in 1.5, is going to become required. And part of the reason we're doing that is to get better data, and eventually this will impact the routing, and we can route the PAF directly to the post-award team. So we need to collect this data ahead of time, so when we do that next step, we have the data in place. Next slide, please. The other change we've made is to the project team request ORSP action activity. So this activity was mostly a couple questions, mostly a text box in that tell us what you want. In an effort to collect better data and do reporting on it, and eventually maybe do some other kind of routing related to this, we are moving to predefined choices, and you can see there's 5 or 6 of them. Depending on how you answer, you may get additional questions at display. And initially, we are going to start triaging this just between the project representatives and the support staff. Some of these items that you check off are handled by support staff and will show up in their queue, and others go directly to the project representative. So again, this is related to the ORSP realignment. Next slide, please. We are have made some changes to the viewing on the link and the SF424 link on the PAF workspace. And this is kind of in line with making some changes a few years ago where we've opened up the access to the PAF. So basically the 424 is now, the link is now going to be in alignment with that. If you can view the PAF, you're going to be able to see the link from the grants.gov PAF workspace, and you will no longer, as a research administrator, and you can see down there in question 2.5, when you're adding people to the PAF, investigators and admin personnel, you only indicate if you want to give them edit rights to your SF424. The read rights will be taken care of by the system. Next slide, please. And then lastly, this isn't anything that you really need to manage. It's more of an FYI. When you run the copy map activity and you map in the institutional data, we've made some changes to the institutional context. So previously we had the actual PR name with their email address and our assistant VP for research's name. We've made some changes to that. So the PR name is going to be replaced with Chandra, our White, our assistant VP for research. And all the contact information is going to be general contact information. So there's a triage email address, and then there's the ORSP general number. And again, this is in alignment with the ORSP realignment and making sure that things now go to a group inbox. So we are not getting this in the system until June 17th. And if you want to make these changes ahead of that, I believe that the ORSP website will be updated at some point to reflect the new information. And we've also made some updates to our step-by-step. So you should have that as a resource. And then lastly, on the award, we are making slight changes for the Research Security Office. And this has to do with the slide that Andrea mentioned. Some awards are coming in with an additional level of approval and risk mitigation. So we've built this into the system. You may see this on an award. There aren't a lot of them at this point. But if you do see risk mitigation approval, know that the Research Security Office is reviewing it. And if there isn't anything you have to do, if they have questions, they will definitely reach out to the PI and the project team. Next slide, please. Lastly, this was a request from, I believe it was a RAC process survey and I believe it was a RAC survey. Currently, all the emails you get on sub-Ks do not include the U of M PI, and we have made a change so it's like PAF and award, where most of the emails, once you route your subcontract, will now include the PI's name in the email. So for those of you who have a lot of subcontracts and you have to sort them between RAs, you should be able to have another piece of identifying information. And next slide, please. So coming on July 1st, we have many thousands of PAFs, really old PAFs in the state of proposal in preparation, and really old UFAs in the state of create UFA records. And they're probably belong to people who may not even be here anymore or may not be in that department. And so we're going to take some action in the system. We are going to start moving them to the state of canceled. And we have a job that is newly created that every July 1st, starting this year, it will move the records to the canceled state. If it's a record that you're using as like a template, know that you can still clone it. You just have to go find it from canceled. And we've included the steps on how to clone a PAF. And then lastly, we're going to do this every year on July 1st. This is really in an effort to clean out old records. And then last thing. This I'm telling you about ahead of time. We are planning on doing this in our August release. This has to do with the friend account access in ERPM. So friends accounts are people who are external. They don't have U of M email addresses. We are moving away from that. It just doesn't provide enough security in systems. And instead, we're moving to the sponsored people, sponsored affiliates. For external parties, we have lots of details on this. You can see once you get the slides, there are links on this. Our other e-research systems are also transferring. ERAM is handled by the iCook office, and they've already transferred as of April. Regulatory management has made some changes, but because of all the external people that they have and managing single IRBs, they have a different set of decisions to make. So if you're interested, you can see the announcement they made in April. There's going to be more information about this. And if you're not familiar with sponsored accounts, sponsored affiliates, we will definitely get you up to access. We've also done a lot of cleanup, and honestly, lots of units have already transitioned to this. So hopefully this won't be a big impact. I believe that is my last slide.
We did have two questions, Carolyn,
Okay.
that pertain to your update. The first is when the new SF42 forms are imported, will the space in the middle name field be removed?
I'd like to think so. The space in the middle name field it exists for mostly investigators who don't have middle names, and it's something that we were able to fix with one of our vendor updates, and they've reverted something, and we've not been able to get them to fix it again. I understand it is a hassle. We are working on it, and we are trying to work with our vendor to come up with something that is more comprehensive.
Okay.
But
And
no,
then
the upcoming change will not fix that.
Okay. And then the second question is, will the Michigan Medicine Community Partners be included with their EIN numbers and locations for use in the SF424 forms?
It will not be. And Molly, I see that you posted that. I can reach out to you and find out more, but we were not planning on doing that. So let me reach out to you personally and see what you're looking for us to do.
Right, and that's all the questions we had.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I have a few updates for you. And first off, I wanted to share with all of you, if you weren't already aware, the single audit for the university was completed, and it is available if you need it out on the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. So feel free to go out there if there's any questions. There were some findings, but they were not specific to research and development. So no worries there for this team. Next slide, please. So we are moving right along into the current year uniform guidance audit. We had our kickoff meeting with our auditors, PwC, yesterday. I'm sorry, actually it was on May 14th. And this year, research and development is included in the audit. So expect that you might get a request for some help with some of the testing that will be done. So more to come on that this summer. And the next slide. So Andrea already covered this, so I won't go into any detail, but just as a reminder, the updated uniform guidance is effective October 1st. And as Andrea mentioned, we are having a kickoff meeting with the working group to determine how best to implement all of those changes at the university. So more to come on that as well. Next slide. Our FNA rate is expiring as of June 30th. And as a result of that expiring, the university did submit an FNA proposal, which will set the rates for FY 25 through 28. We don't expect that we're going to have that fully negotiated by June 30th. If that happens, that would be great. But if not, we will be going to use our current rates or our existing rates on a provisional basis. So if you're working on proposals now, you should just plan on going ahead and using those rates into the future with the expectation that we won't have a new negotiated rate by June 30th. Next slide. This is just a mention, and I believe it already went out in a wrap, that the Human Subjects Incentive Payments team worked closely with the tax department to reduce some of the burden with collecting Social Security numbers. So we now the requirement has moved to Social Security numbers only being required when a participant receives cumulative payments of more than $400 from all of the studies that they're involved in a calendar year. And there's more information on the HSIP website related to this. And if you have any questions, please reach out to them at the email there. Next slide. So sponsored programs and ITS and the teams worked on a new form for the single administrative point of contact change request form. So that is now ready for your use, and it can be found out in the finance webpage under customer service. And if you go to the sponsored programs, forms and tables, it's there for you to use. So that's exciting. It should be make life easier for all of you. Next slide. So Andrea touched on this as well, and this is just a reminder. This slide is specific to closeouts, but a reminder that we need all of the help we can get from you to get our reports, our financial reports submitted timely. It's really important that those are done as soon as possible so that we can get them submitted to the sponsors. But in addition to financial reports, we also have the closeouts that we can use your help on. This is the time of year when we really try to get those cleaned up. We have about 1,300 that are active, and 600 of those are late. So if you can help us with getting at least the late ones cleaned up. Our concern is that there may be expenses that need to go onto a continuation project or something like that. So making sure that we get sponsors billed timely is important as well. And next slide, we have some new staff who joined us actually just earlier this month. So we have a couple new interns, Jordan and Abby. And then we have 3 new accountants who started in the reporting area as well. Mark, Caitlin, and Joseph. So we're excited to have them join our team. And I expect that once they're done with their training, you will be working with them. We also wanted to let you know that we're sad to have Ann Dement, who worked in the contract administration group, leave to join a legal, more of a legal job. She has a law degree and she really wanted to pursue using it in a setting that was more appropriate for her. So she departed yesterday and we wish her well. And I think that is my last slide. Yes. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris now for an update on RAC.
Yeah, we did have a question in the chat, Debbie.
Okay.
Will there be a new F&A document that says provisional until the new rate is negotiated?
No, our current rate, our current proposed rate does actually state that the provisional rate goes into effect. So there won't be a new document.
Okay. And then there was just a question that came in. Are you allowed to share the proposed new rate?
No.
Okay.
That is something that we don't even know what the rate is. So I don't have anything to share, but that's part of negotiating.
All right. That's all the questions we had then.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
You got it. All right. So RAC update, and I will first apologize. As you saw in the Q&A, we do have a gray box, a persnickety gray box that's there despite my best efforts. And I'll try to find some AI to help me either resolve that issue or just deal with it and be okay with it. So that's another plug for reviewing the slides and the information that will come after the meeting. We will make sure that there is no gray box in those slides. I can't commit to anything on the recording, but we'll just roll with it. The key thing that I wanted to share from the RAC update is that we sort of have a joint effort between RAC Communications and RAC Metrics. Our next virtual networking session will be held next week, Thursday morning at 10 a.m. We will not have gray boxes in that session, I promise you, because it's not a webinar. So what we would like to encourage you to do is to reach out to myself. I have a calendar invitation if you did not receive it from any of the RAC members. Our process is we send it to them optionally and then ask that they forward on to their teams for anyone who might be interested. As well as there's a Jamboard link in that calendar invitation. And there you can add questions that you might have related to some of the tools and resources that are out there. If you don't know where a tool or resource might exist, you can certainly ask that. Part of what we want to do in next week's session is give an overview of where some of those resources are, and then have some time where all of you can share either what you're doing with the RAC Metrics tools and resources to help your daily work or to inform your daily work, share those with others or ask questions as well. So you can certainly reach out to me and I will send that calendar invitation, which includes the Jamboard link to you as well. I did want to give a huge note of thanks to the folks that were in the 8th RAMP cohort. These folks, I have to say, this is probably one of our largest cohorts that we've had. So that just indicates to me a continuing need to have a lot of mentorship and opportunities for mentorship in RAC and in research administration here at U of M. I'm not going to read through all these names. Most of you know who these folks are, but I also especially wanted to thank them because they were all at some point throughout the cohort participating in the networking sessions that we set up. Melissa Lee, who I owe a huge debt of gratitude to as well for helping me to sort of launch these and get them, keep them moving. Otherwise, if it's just me, there's not a likelihood that they would have continued consistently like they did. So thank you, Melissa, for that. We had a lot of great topics that I'm really convinced can be used for subsequent cohorts. And I really feel like help to kind of put some additional opportunities around the cohort besides just the one-on-one meetings. And then for this cohort, we had our inaugural group mentoring for emerging RAs cohort. That group has now been paired up together. They spent the first half of the engagement working together as a group. We had group mentoring sessions. Part of this came about because we noticed that quite a few of the mentees had not a lot of experience in research administration. And so what we wanted to make sure is, first of all, that they had good information about what research administration here at U of M looks like, as well as a chance to get to know some mentors. And so it worked out very well. We had 6 of those mentees. We had 6 additional mentors who were not paired one-to-one with someone else. So that worked out really well. And then now, like I said, we're able to get them paired for the final portion of the cohort. We fully, and I can't make a whole lot of commitments on what this will look like, but Melissa and I have had some preliminary discussions that we fully intend to continue this group mentoring option, depending on the need and depending on the interest. So again, thanks to all these folks, we sort of in lieu of having one-on-one sessions with them, we had group mentoring sessions that met the 1-hour time commitment per month. So all of these folks were very diligent in attending, but also willing to share and discuss in those sessions. So again, huge debt of gratitude to those folks as well. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I will turn it back over to Becky to close us out. You're muted, Becky.
Never mute myself, so I'm so used to being open mic. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Chris. Now, as we begin to close out our time together, we have a short Zoom poll about your overall experience with today's RAND meeting. We would like to know how relevant you found today's meeting content. Again, on a 5-point scale, 1 being not relevant, 2 slightly relevant, 3 moderately relevant, 4 relevant, and 5 highly relevant. We will hold here for about 1 minute to give everyone a chance to complete the poll. We truly appreciate your feedback. Thank you, Chris. I want to extend our thanks and appreciation to our MC Minu, all of our presenters, the communications subcommittee for arranging and hosting the RAND meeting, and to each of you for being with us today. Keep in touch with us on Slack or in our virtual networking sessions. Please tell your colleagues about these opportunities. As always, if you have any ideas, suggestions, or other feedback, please let us know at ran-plans@umich.edu. Our next RAND meeting will be held September 25th, 2024. This will coincide with the National Research Administrator Day. Take care for now. Be well. Bye for now.